Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys an old school album review. And today we're going to be looking into this album's 20th anniversary, and it's from, well, it's kind of a nostalgic album for me. I know a lot of people will give me shit for it, but I really don't care. And it's just something, it's an album from a band I liked when I was a kid, and it's still a great album. And as you can see, well, the title, today we're going to be talking about Satellite by P.O.D, the band's fourth studio album and second major label album, released on September 11th, 2001 through Atlantic Records. Now, this of course follows up their previous album, The Fundamental Elements of Southtown, which was released a couple years prior in 1999, and it was around between 99 and 2000. That was the album that really kind of like broke P.O.D big, because they released two independent albums, their first two albums being Snuff the Punk and Brown, which were kind of like a little underground, is from their hometown of San Diego, California. But it wasn't until like their previous album, The Fundamental Elements, where they really broke big and they got signed to Atlantic, got that big break, and they were like in movies, songs were featured in movies like Little Nicky and Matrix and stuff. And this album, I feel like, really just what got P.O.D to just continue that fame that they had previously on Fundamental. But with Satellite, I think this album was interesting because this was released, like I mentioned, on September 11, 2001, 20 years ago today, and it was the same day that, of course, tragedy in the U.S. happened when the terrorist attacks that hit the Twin Towers in New York City, and it was a really tragic day. And honestly, America hasn't really been that way since. And also, for the record, I'm not gonna get really too political because this is not what this video is about, and I don't want to see any comments on here saying like, oh, it was planned and shit. But anyway, back to the album. This album, I feel like, is a quantum leap from Fundamental. It's like, in terms of the musicality, it still has like, I feel like for me, P.O.D, they always have elements of like, they were kind of around that time labeled as new metal. Oh, because I feel like, especially around this time, it was peak with like bands like Korn and that Linkin Park, System of a Down, Slipknot, bands like that were really at like their popularity. And it was like, that was the peak. But I think it was like after 2001 is where new metal kind of died off. And then like they've combined like new metal, but they also have like elements of like funk stuff, like some reggae, even like hip hop, and even just like of course they're a Christian band, but I like some Christian bands. I mean, I know some people say, oh, you can't like freaking P.O.D with like Slayer, and I'm like, why? I don't care. As long as the music doesn't suck ass, I like it. But yeah, the vocals, let's just talk about like the musicianship and instrumentation. Vocally, Sonny Sandoval, I feel like he delivers a really powerful message on this song, and like really powerful voice and lyrics. He puts like a lot of feel and a lot of like emotion into his singing, and I think he's one of the best vocalists I've heard. The guitar work is tight. Marcos Carril's, guitar is like, the guitar tone is really sick, just really exquisite. It has that signature kind of P.O.D sound. The bass on this album is pretty audible. You can definitely hear Trey Daniels' bass in the mix. And drumming wise, Wolf Bernardo, who is also Sonny's cousin, like Wolf's drumming, he really just keeps a beat, and it's just a really great job on this album. I think he's a step up from Fundamental. So without further ado, and I pretty much rambled on for almost 4 minutes, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Set It Off. Now, it just kicks right in with a good blend of like great drumming and a crazy riff, and this is a heavy song without a doubt, and it's also new metal sounding. If this song is new metal, then there must be screaming, especially when you hear rise, Set It Off. It also has some great bass line and laid down in this song, and it goes from like the same drums that Wolf performs, and the verses on this track are good too. But overall, Set It Off, I think, is a great way to start off this album. And then we get to one of the singles released from the album, called Alive, which opens up with a catchy guitar riff that and it leads into some really great lyrics, especially like that chorus is like, I feel so alive for the very first time, and the tone and the background vocals of the chorus is great, and the bridge is like the same way too, with sort of like few echoes in the background and a great like rap part delivered from Sonny. It's also very emotional sounding, and Marco really just shows up with the awesome catchy riff and well. And this song is heavy, but not as like heavy as Set It Off, as there's not like a whole lot of screaming on here. And then next up is Boom. Now this song opens up yet again with another catchy riff, and the band just goes right in when Sonny just lets out with a weird kind of like "Husha," which is a very motivational song, which I'm not really sure what it's 100% about. I mean, I've seen like the music video where they're playing like a ping pong tournament, which I think is interesting. And the guitar in the background is excellent, and Marco's just playing it as well. And the chorus is what makes the song excellent, and especially when everybody just yells "boom," and just, it's a very great song. Then we get to the next song on here, probably one of my favorite P.O.D. songs, which is Youth of the Nation. Now, Youth of the Nation is pretty much where the album kind of slows the pace down a little bit. And when you first hear this song, it's usually like okay. So it's kind of like starts off with a recording from like a children like playing in like a playground or something, and then it just breaks out into sort of like a low tuned, creepy B like guitar intro, and then Wiv comes in and then has a great drum reel. It just flows really well. And this song lyrically is very emotional. I feel like it also talks about the losses and deaths like various children have gone through. And the chorus just talks about we are the youth of the nation. And I think Youth of the Nation is a very, very powerful song. And it has a really great message behind it. Next up is Celestial. Now Celestial is just like a minute and a half instrumental, and I think it's just really there to just speed up the tempo to the next song, which is the title track, Satellite. And this song kind of like opens up with a punk like guitar riff, and it's really catchy, and it also has like almost a punk side of P.O.D. And the verses are really good in this song, and the guitars coming in. And the verses are good too, with Sonny yelling "Satellite." And this track is really strong, and the flow just keeps going, and it just flows really perfectly. And then we get to Ridiculous. Now, the song kind of starts out, no pun intended, ridiculously. And this song features a guest appearance from Eek A Mouse. And I feel like the singer like sings in like a different language or something. And this song is a little faster than the previous song, and it has like a weird mix of like rap and like Caribbean stuff and the slow guitar lines. And I thought this track was weird, and it sort of like broke the flow of the tracks, but I don't know. No, but I feel like it doesn't take away, but overall, Ridiculousness is a ridiculous but good song. Next up is The Messenger. Now, The Messenger just speeds things up with like a killer riff and angry vocals, and this kind of reminds me a little bit of Set It Off. It has like the same tempo and the same kind of like chorus, similar to like Boom thrown in there, and the background vocals are really feel like where the anger comes from. It's really heavy and angry and fun to listen to, and the song picks up the album tempo, and then the closing is a little bit weak, but the incredible chorus just makes up for that. Moving on to another instrumental called Guitariste de Amour, and it's kind of similar to a Celestial. It's a little instrumental interlude. It's like little acoustic guitars with no vocals, and there's like a weird little chant, and it's in the background. And so yeah, I think it's just there. And then we move on to Anything Right. Right, which features Christian Linsog from the band Blindside. It has a repeated guitar riff, which leaves a great impression of the song. And the verses kind of sound a little bit like something from like a boy band, very space age and emotional. And I feel like that stops, and then the harsh chorus comes in with Sonny like screaming, "I can't do anything right." Right. I think it's a really powerful. Next up is Ghetto. Now this pretty much has like, it starts off with a slow guitar sample and some really emotional lyrics. I believe this world believes in love. And the opening, it kind of feels like a little bit weird compared to the song's title, but that bridge just hits you like a hurricane with just some really angry vocals. Moving on to the next song on the album, which is called Masterpiece Conspiracy. Now, it's a very sweet song. It's very metalish and very angry. It opens up with like an echoed note, then it goes into like a very rapped verse about like conspiracy of sorts. And I'm not sure what it's about, but the chorus kind of reminds me a little bit of like Messenger. And the verses are really, really well done, and the chorus just sounds very angry sounding. Next up is Without John Nothing, which features HR, which I have no idea who that is. Now, this is pretty much a raw anger just put into a song from the start, and then Sonny screams a lot of like random stuff, which sounds a little bit ridiculous. It's a little later with some like weird Jamaican steel drums and the weird guitar effects. Next up is Thinking About Forever. Now, this song kind of starts off a little bit, right, ridiculous, but then it reverts into an acoustic piece, and the verses kind of sound a little bit boy bandish, but with a lot of like spacey kind of effects. And this song carries some really great emotional lyrics. It is a much slower song than the rest of the album. And then we close things out with Portrait. Now, Portrait kind of starts off with a very catchy, complex riff, which leads into another heavy, kind of nu metalish riff with pretty much all screaming. And the song is very fast, heart pounding, and heavy. And it's really fun to listen to. And it is, without the doubt, in my opinion, the heaviest on the album, even if it slows down at the end. And it slows down about 3/4 of the way through, and then it speeds up more of the heaviness. And I think it's a great way to end this album. And overall, Satellite by P.O.D. A really great album. I'm pretty much continuing the success of fundamental elements of Southtown, and it's really great. So if I were to give this album a score, I'm going to give Satellite by P.O.D. a solid 10 out of 10. And it's still a great album. But it's without this album, and with also like Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory, Fallen by Evanescence, I wouldn't have gotten into like Tomb of the Mutilated by Cannibal Corpse or The Satanist by Behemoth, Century Redemption by Deicide. So I have to give this credit for like being like the foundation, sort of like the gateways, the pre-gateways into metal. So yeah, that's my review of this album, guys. Nice. And if anybody's also going to see this album played in its entirety next week at Center Stage, I'll be there, and it'll be great to see it in its entirety. I did see the live stream of it a couple months ago, but it'll be great to see this in person. And if anybody's tonight's going to go see Unleash the Archers at the Masquerade, I will be there. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video, and as always, keep it metal.